Yeah. What's up, everybody? This is the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. I am your host, Jugrnaut, along with my partner.
Mike Traumedy in the building.
Yes, and we are Arkatech Beatz collectively. We are platinum producers. We have produced platinum records for, I keep saying everybody in the music industry, but most of your iconic artists. And this is the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. If it's your first time here,
hmm
welcome to that, and do some housekeeping. Just make sure you subscribe or hit the notification bells and all that other good stuff. Share it with a friend. But, the goal is for us to meet up every week and, talk about different aspects of the music business, answer questions for people who might want to know what's going on. Also, kind of just get some insight on how to handle certain situations as it relates to the music business. So,
hmm hmm
we got a few topics that came into our forum, into our Facebook group rather.
But before we go any further, a big RIP to Biz Markie. We just heard that he passed. I believe it was this week. So Biz Markie is an icon, legend in the game. And it's definitely a sad moment in the culture, man. The guy put down with Big Daddy Kane, who else?
Molly Mall, Juice
Marley
Crew.
Marl, Juice Crew. I mean, man, like the records, the records he put out. This guy was really a talent, with the beatboxing, the making the records, you know, he is like the you look at. I always thought when I look at him, I just saw like raw talent. To be able to do some of the things that he's done. Some of the great records that you may know him from is "Say She's Just a Friend," "The Vapors," which is like one of
My favorite.
my favorite his records. "The Vapors." Um, yeah, he definitely has a catalog of great records. So if you're not even in tune, I suggest check those records out, man. R.I.P. to Bismarcky.
Word, I did all that, man, because for Biz, it was like he was one of the first ones, the first characters that you would see in hip hop. Like especially when we talk about like that Vapors record, and him putting on the wig for just a friend, and what I mean. That's like the first character, and then also just the learning process from him and the people that he was able to put on. He put on a lot of these folks, a lot of folks that he put on behind the scenes that people are not really aware of.
Right.
But definitely rest in peace to him and condolences to his family, man.
Facts.
Hip hop legends, folks. Y'all
Yep.
gotta do that research, man, and see how these people contributed to not only yesterday's music, but how their music is resampled in today's.
Yep.
Word. So I think we had a topic in the group where we were asking questions about 360 deals, and we had gotten a little bit of feedback on that, and I wanted to kind of expound on it a little bit. But for the folks who may not understand, can we explain to them what is a 360 deal? And I guess we could talk about like the pros and the cons of having it, and what our take is on it.
Well, it's pretty simple. A 360 deal basically is you sign to a record company, and any opportunities, even outside of music per se, but it's attached to your name, your artist name, the record label would be allowed to get a piece of whatever that opportunity is. So, for example, let's say you're signed, you got a record deal, and you're popular, you're popping, your album just came out. Now all of a sudden, a movie company wants to do a movie with you. The record label will be able to share in that revenue stream. If you want to go and do a book deal, shows, whatever the case may be, the record label will be able to share in those revenue streams as well. So basically, they're taking a piece out of all of these opportunities um, that you may get because of your popularity of being an artist signed to them.
And that's a good idea for folks to understand. A good way of explaining that. for folks to understand what the 360 deal is. And remember, the thought process behind the 360 deal is because they're injecting that money into you, right? And they're the ones that's helping to build your popularity. That is the reason why they want to latch on to everything. Um, it wasn't always like that in the past. In the past, it would be like, okay, they would only make the money off of the music sales. But because music sales aren't as strong as they used to be, hence the 360 deal, right? So let's talk about some of the pros. Let's talk about some of the cons. Like what makes a 360 deal good for artists sometimes, and what makes it bad.
Well, I would say if you're an artist that's already popping, already doing your thing, already getting tons of shows, already getting looks before you signed the deal, like the record label came after you because you were popping and because you were already selling records, you was always on tours, you already got things happening, then you don't need to necessarily sign a 360 deal because all you're doing is allowing them to take to get into your streams, your revenue streams. There's no need for them to just take a piece out of what you already doing, is what I'm saying. However, if you're an artist that's you need the extra help, you having trouble getting shows, or you're having trouble getting other opportunities, then you may want to consider a 360 deal where you could work with the label to help you get some of these things going. And of course, they're going to have to take a piece out of it because they're helping you get these things or helping creating these opportunities for you. Um, Also, it depends on the level of who you are. So, for example, someone like maybe like a Rihanna or a Beyonce, they may get some sort of 360 deal to do big sponsorships like Revlon and all of these other things. Maybe they'll have the label help them get those major situations. So it really depends. It depends on your infrastructure and what you have going for you, or what you may not have going for you.
I definitely I see that, and a lot of the issues that I see with a lot of artists now is they're getting the 360 deal is going to be there for them to get, like you said, different type of situations going, right? And and I think the key part that you said, which was if you already got something going on, right? Meaning if you've already been able to kind of establish a baseline value for you and your music and your music and your visuals, like you can assign a value to that. So once you can assign a value to that, you'd have to make that decision whether or not you want to give a portion of that up, right? Because
Right,
you've already now, I'm doing shows at X amount of dollars. I'm already moving $1 million worth of merch. You know, I'm already getting the calls from certain places because I'm already popular. So,
right,
so, um, now, yes, the label may be able to make me more popular, but that can be kind of subjective, right? Like
right.
how much of it at this point is the label and how much of it is me. Um,
Because at that point, the label could just simply be coming in to just kind of sit back and
yep.
just reap some of the benefits off of your hard work, and
All
that's
right.
not what you want.
Because you basically want to make a partnership that's going to elevate you to another level.
Right,
And I guess you have to kind of make that you have to differentiate between, if you have enough value, or if there's room to grow. If there's room to grow, then the 360 might make sense, right? If it means that, hey, it's going to get you into television and sitcoms, and it's going to be that kind of revenue stream that's going to carry on in perpetuity, then yeah, you might want to say, okay, you know what, I might want to jump into that. Or if it's going to, like you said, lead to large brand or large endorsement deals or larger tour money, then it might
right,
make sense. Um, but if you're not going to get that, then it wouldn't make sense.
right. And also, it depends also on what kind of 360 deal, because that's something that's negotiable. Of what's going to be what they're going to be responsible for. What you don't want to be is signed into a 360 deal, and the label is sitting on their ass per se. waiting for you to make all the moves, and they sitting back and collect it. They have to be a company that's actually going and soliciting these things and making these things happen as well. You want to be with a company that's going to work with you, that they're going to go out there and play their part and help them create your brand. Um, but if it's just going to be solely you and they sitting back, then that deal ain't going to make any sense for you.
I guess the question is when is it ever not solely on you in this business? Because it's always on you.
Well. There are instances where it's highly beneficial for the record label to get involved, you know. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's always going to be on your back. It's always going to be on your back, you know, regardless of what kind of deal you sign, you know, whether it's indie, whether it's a standard record deal, a 360 deal, or whatever type of situation it is. It's still always going to be on your back to get things moving. That's just the nature of the beast.
It's crazy though when you think about it. It's like it has totally switched. Right? It has switched to the point where you really have to do the majority of the work right now. And there's really no shortcuts to it. There's like sometimes you would think that there's a certain level of label support behind the horizon, but the truth of the matter is that the folks who have the best internal infrastructure, the folks who have the best internal teams, the folks who know how to get things to start and go internally first, and then when they get to solicit the help of the label, those are the people that tend to be the most successful. But
Right,
they always have to have. It's almost like you're running in duplicate. You have to
right.
have an internal situation that mirrors everything that the label has, and
Hmm.
then the label may be able to kind of take what you're doing and then kind of branch it out to their third party situation. But it's like
Yeah,
if you don't have that intact,
right.
it's going to be really difficult or an uphill stream.
Not to mention, you know, all of the artists that's already signed to the label or being distributed through the label. You know, there's some distribution companies that have thousands of artists just every day releasing music. So it's like you have to make sure that your internal team, your internal structure, can even compete with what's going on. You know, when you're dealing with the label or dealing with your distributor, there's certain internal battles you will have to fight, unfortunately, to get noticed, to get their attention, because you want to be a priority, of course. So those are things to think about also when you want to do a deal or pick a distributor per se. You know,
I guess the other question is like some people would ask, well, how do I even get to be a priority when thousands of artists are being signed and distributed? Like how do I even get to become a priority in their eyes?
that's the $1 million question. You know, and you know that's what everybody's trying to figure out. But it really comes down to the your team. It comes down to your infrastructure. You have to do everything on your side. You can't wait for the label or the distributor. You have to go and make the connections yourself and go out there and t- you know overturn every rock per se. You know, you got to do your own radio runs. You got to do your own running around and doing shows and tours, and you know, being online, being on these social media platforms, and building your brand and making yourself popular. You know, there's a whole lot of different ways of doing things, and you know, there's not any one way. And you know, the thing with this music business is that today, you know, everybody can do it this way and it works, and then tomorrow it's a whole different ball game. You know, today it works because the sun is out a certain way, but tomorrow it's you know. So there's no real formula per se, but there are certain foundations, certain things that you do have to have, which is making sure that you cover certain grounds, making sure you have your social media intact, making sure you have your music a certain way, make sure that you're not out there networking and that you're communicating with different tastemakers, influencers, you know, all of those things. You have to make sure you cover at least all of those grounds, and hopefully you have a shot.
Hopefully, like
I
I
thought
thought
it
it
was
was
funny
funny
when
when
you
you
said,
said,
"Oh,
"Oh, it works today because the sun is shining," right? Or you know, And like you said, everybody's like, remember when mixtapes were the thing? Everybody said, "Okay, we'll do a mixtape," and then it's no longer the thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you got so many different things that folks. It works for, like I said, it works when the sun is shining, or it works because today is a rainy day. But
Right,
but it ain't gonna work next week. Like so,
right,
it's all kind of
Stuff
stuff
like
like
that.
that.
I
I
think
think
I
I
think
think
what's
what's
interesting
interesting sometimes, like the it's the connotation that the 360 deal is 100% bad. And if you think about it from a like now that we're on the other end too, right? Meaning that now that we have our own label and we have a distribution and stuff like that, and it's like okay, like now that you kind of see the amount of money that has to go into breaking artists, right? Like the only way you was going to make a profit is if you had to be tied into the revenue stream.
right. Like if you think about it, it's like, okay, as a record label, let's say you own a record label, right? You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting, branding an artist, right? And you could only benefit. Think about it, you only benefiting off of record sales. So when this artist that you helped blow up, you know, take from nothing to something, and they blow up and they got a huge name, and because of the money you've invested in them, they go out there and get other deals and shows, and you not a part of that. That's look at it from that point of view. You lose out as a record company. So that's why the record companies had to change their model to these 360 so they could get a piece of, all the other revenue if they're going to be putting in to help in branding these artists.
And the funny thing was, like now, the the live show money and the merch money is eclipsing the record sales.
Right, right.
So so with that happening, there was no other way. Like I said, there's really no other way for them to make their money back. They had to be tied into all the other revenue streams because it was just there's no way for you to make that money back at that royalty rate like you were back in the day. There's no more 18.99 CDs
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Those days are over. So when we're talking about the streaming era, which I still think, when we look back at this in history, that this is um, probably the best model that we've ever seen.
Hmm.
Because um, I think people who like to play their favorite music will always play their favorite music, day in day out. With the advent of streaming, I think as a CD or a tape got physically bad, you got to a point where you couldn't play it anymore.
And I think also with the streaming is that the not just the so quote unquote replay value, but the the way music is discovered over and over again.
Right.
It's like a library,
Yeah.
and if that continues to promote itself in the palm of your hand with your phone. It's not like if you have a child and you have a kid and you want them to hear an artist that you've grew up listening to, you would have to physically get the record or physically get the CD, and hopefully it's still in good condition, and or the cassette tape, and play it for your child or whatever. Now your child, they're on these platforms already, and it's jumping in their feeds, it's jumping in the discovery. So they it's already being promoted without having to physically hand the CD or physically have these things. So it's that's what's happening with artists like, for example, Big Pun. It's just over and over and over. New kids. I saw an interview with a young artist. I don't remember his name. But when Big Pun album came out, he wasn't even born.
I saw that.
He wasn't even born. But now as a young teen, he's like the biggest. He's one of the biggest Pun fans, and I believe he even made a remix record off of
It's so hard.
right, one of the songs. And his name slips me at the moment. But I found that very interesting that you're a fan of someone that, you know, you weren't in that era, but could appreciate it now, based because of streaming and all of these outlets that still allows these records to be discovered like they're new. So yeah, it's a great time when it comes to discovering and rediscovering music, and hip hop should not die.
I think that's so dope about it. What I would like to see, and I know people are gonna probably say I'm crazy for saying this, but what if like you said, all these records are living on, they're having, a certain level of discovery. Wouldn't it be dope for your favorite artist to um, continue to produce content from past albums?
Yeah,
Like, so let's say, for example, you got Illmatic, right? So Illmatic, we got One Love, we got what were the singles? One Love, It Ain't Hard to Tell,
hmm
The World Is Yours. Do we have a Represent single or
I don't,
video?
I'm not
I don't
sure.
think so. But what if Nas went back and said, okay, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do a video for Represent, or I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do a video for some of them other songs that by
Like,
New York State of Mind, right?
right.
like you know what I'm saying? Like how ill would that be right now for him to go back and do that, and how would that create the rediscovery of not just that song, but the whole album, or go back and do a video for I Gave You Power, or just stuff like that, like because now it can be consumed. Before you wouldn't do that stuff because these records wouldn't occupy music shelves, or they couldn't,
Right.
right? That's not the case anymore, right? So people got catalogs, 10 album catalogs that they can make visual albums for, and you know kind of create different things for that, which I think would be kind of dope. But
Yeah, that'd be dope.
that's just me giving the industry a jewel, and I need to get some credit for that. So make sure if y'all gonna take my idea and start putting out that past content, you know. And I think the guys that own their masters,
Yeah, they
those
could
are
do
going,
that.
those are the guys that are going to be the most they're going to benefit themselves the most as far as monetary
Right, right.
gain, But I thought that was interesting. I thought the whole 360 conversation that we were having, in the group, I thought it was dope to see some of even the independent artists that kind of understood the concept, and they were able to accept that concept of, hey, if they're going to promote me, they're going to be tapped into the revenue stream. Because I know that there used to be a lot of people that were against it and just felt like, oh, it's rape, it's this, it's that. Like, at what point do you, um, at what point do you get from under the vice of the music industry, of the label?
hmm
But it's like you wouldn't be popular, without the label, right? So unless you can find a way to pay them back for their investment with interest,
hmm
I don't know. I don't know of another way to do it. And us being on the other side now, it's like, yeah, you have to be tapped into all the revenue streams because again, they're gonna be able to make all that money, and you're making them popular, and when you look at it, if you're not tied into every single revenue stream, it'd be very hard to make your money back, considering the
Absolutely.
amount of money that you'd have to spend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another question that I've seen floating around is like which distributor should an artist choose?
The distributor game, man, it's going to be based off. It's going to be it's going to come down to what your individual needs are, and I
So
think you and I talked about that. Like, it comes down to your individual needs and what's going to be your needs as an artist. What services are you going to need? Because basically everybody will be able to get you on all the DSPs, right? The
absolutely.
digital service platforms, right? So we know everybody will be able to get you on those things. Some platforms have recurring fees.
hmm
Those are the platforms that I'm kind of trying to lean away from, right? So
hmm
um, the recurring fees aren't a big deal if you're earning, But if you're
Right.
not, if you're not earning, it can add up,
Right.
right? Because if you're a person that put out a lot of music, and if you have to pay for it every year, and your records aren't doing what they need to do, then that can become real expensive for you to keep a record up, right?
Mm.
And if you think about it, um, we were early adopters with DistroKid, and when you think about it, you're on the platform 4 or 5, 6 years. You don't even realize you're on the platform 4, 5, 6 years.
Mm.
And if you have, um, depending on how many albums you got, depending on how many songs you got, or how many situations you got going, or what plan you're on, you can continue to pay for it,
Mm.
every year at a certain rate. Whereas there were other platforms like, say, CD Baby, where
Mm.
you would pay for your release once, and
Mm.
and that's it.
Mm.
And it'll be up there 10 years, and you'll never have to pay another dime for it. And everybody knows that music makes money, and then sometimes it declines, right?
Mm.
So you might make enough money in the first few years to cover everything, or make whatever, but then depending on the caliber of artist you are, it may wane, and then you have to come out of your pocket for that. So I'm always more of a fan of, having it paid for, and then you don't have to worry about it, your card expiring or something silly. You know what I'm saying? And then your music gets taken down. Um,
But I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more than just that because there's so many new distributors that seem to be popping up everywhere that they have to do something extra to compete. They have to have some sort of incentive for you to choose them. I saw one platform where they'll send your stuff to TV and film, where another platform doesn't actually do that. You
right,
know, some platforms will get your stuff into video games, or they'll send your stuff to the NFL or NBA games. Not all platforms have those connections. So some may want a piece of your royalties or a piece of your masters. Some don't even want any of that. So like you have to do your research and see which distributor is going to work for you. And there's a whole lot of other criteria and things, maybe how much lead time each distributor would need before you can uh, get your record up. How long does it take for your record to actually get to the DSPs? Lead time. Some may be video friendly, some may not. So there's a lot of research you have to do with the distributors and see which one is going to work for your situation, which additional services that they may have, and so on. So that's what you have to look into.
it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, and um, like I guess having worked with maybe the three main ones, which would be um, that TuneCore, CD Baby, DistroKid. Those are like the three larger ones, and DistroKid,
Independent ones.
yeah, independent ones.
That's not tied to a
That's not
label,
tied to,
to a
right,
major label.
but remember, DistroKid is tied to Spotify,
Right.
right? And then I think United Masters is another one that's growing very, very, very rapidly, and a lot of it is because you can release your music from your phone, right? Which gives that like a huge advantage as far as the user interface, and then some of the other services. I know CD Baby is connected with Song Trust, right? So they
Okay.
do a lot of the those guys are going to be good for monetization of your publishing, right, and monetization of your YouTube and stuff like that.
Hmm.
For they're tied into the collection aspect of it all. Um, you have to find out what works for you. You have to make the decision as what works for you. Um, I guess someone was asking what our personal favorite was, and I was like, well, we've used them all, and you know, I sometimes like just the single one and done. I don't like really the recurring fees.
Hmm.
I would prefer that not be present because and I know it doesn't cost you. If CD Baby can put it up in one shot, we know it doesn't cost you more money to keep it up on those platforms. You're just charging that to charge it. So so It's a game, that these folks are playing, which is I get it, and like you said, having the extra services are great,
Hmm.
you know. Um, Sometimes I don't know if it makes that much of a difference.
Hmm.
Um, what would be a great service is if somebody was tied into discount Facebook ads, another jewel, but or discount Google ads. Like if you're part of this distributor, you're going to get a discount on your advertising. That might that might be a nice service if we can get that, but it's one of those things with that. But I would say for everyone, do your research. Um, Definitely try to see what's going to be the best platform for your short term and long term goals. I think that's probably where the the questions have to be asked is what's going to be the best situation for me, not only in the short term but for the long term. What is my long term music goals?
Hmm.
Do I want to get into different film and television, video games? What's the long play? And then choose your platform based off of what your short term and long term goals are, and then also where you tend to earn the most and retain the most,
Right.
and retain the most ownership, and then
Right.
retain the most revenue share. So that becomes a situation. Switching gears real quick, I think you and I were talking about this behind the scenes, and we were talking about like the um the untalked about pressure
Okay.
and stress of and the expectations of succeeding in the music business, and some of the things that we have to deal with in trying to sustain a certain level of relevancy in this business, and sometimes how lonely it can be, when you're on your journey and when you actually ascend to where you want to go to, and you've noticed that you've had to cut everything and everybody off in order to make it,
Hmm.
and
Real.
it brings new meaning to, it's lonely at the top.
That's
Few
real.
people want to talk about it.
It takes a and it takes a lot to be successful in this game. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of focus, and it takes a lot of removing distractions. You know, I remember specifically. I remember one summer, um, staying in the house for the entire summer, not going outside to hang out. An entire summer in the house, just making beats every day. And friends call, hey, you want to hang out? Nah, I want to make some beats. Like I want to, you know, get into it every morning. I was boom, boom, boom throughout the day. Go eat, come back, boom, boom, boom. And I wouldn't for that entire summer. I didn't go to the park. I didn't go to the club. I you know, didn't go to the homies' house. You know, you know, I wasn't out there going on no dates. I was just and it I look back at that, and I really think about what it takes, and the sacrifices you have to make, and those are some of the sacrifices that I made. And funny enough, some of those records were picked up, and became what it is, and like what if I didn't make the sacrifice? What if I didn't do my part? So it comes. There's a lot of sacrifices, a lot of stress and things that come along with it, because you have to sustain your life while everything is going on. And there's a lot of after you said in another podcast, you have to have thick skin. You're going to be faced with rejection. You're going to be faced with no's. You're going to be faced with hate, jealousy. You're going to be faced with so much challenges and adversity. It can really mess you up mentally. To the point where when you finally do make it, you know, it, you see a lot of artists that go through things. A lot of artists have mental breakdowns. A lot of artists are being questioned, like, is this person okay? That this is going on, and it's a real thing, and they say, oh, mental illness is real. It's real, and it takes a lot, and it could be very draining on you. So, uh, you know, you got to keep in mind these things, and you have to make sure that you have a good foundation, where it's a spiritual foundation, a good support system, a team that's gonna tell you, okay, let's take a you need time now to breathe and come back to it. Not to, oh, let's go party and let's do this, but you need to take a second, breathe, now get back to it. There's a lot of different things that you're going to need in order to be successful. And health as well. Making sure that you're healthy so you can sustain these long hours of staying up and traveling and going here and there. You have to be healthy. You know what I'm saying? If you're not healthy, if you're not sharp, you will fall short of your goal. So I thought that was something that we spoke about. I thought that's something that we should definitely share, because it's not really touched on.
And
You
ain't
know.
nobody talking about it because I think it's too real. I think I think what happens is that you have to have a certain level of insanity, a certain level of discipline, which is masked. They say it's discipline, but I really say it's neuroticism, right?
Hmm.
You're neurotic. You're obsessed with what you're doing, right? Like you said, whole summers. I remember the first summer when I had got that first sampler that changed everything, and it came on the heels of me getting into a bad car accident, crashed, totaled my totaled my hoopty, and that was a. I remember that summer specifically, indoors, working on music, specifically, just like that. And like you said, you could remember those times specifically, just nothing else, working on music, and then us starting to put together the sessions where rain, sleet, or snow, we wouldn't miss these sessions. These
Hmm.
sessions would take place. They would last for 12 to 14-hour blocks. Everybody would be stuck in one room,
Word.
right? Only time we went out was to get food, and somebody would go get the food and come back.
Word. Yeah.
Everybody did. Everybody didn't leave. Would eat in the same space, music blaring. Like it was just one of those things where it became, people would say it's discipline. I remember um, just a whole lot of relationships just being lost. Right? People didn't understand.
Yeah.
Right? People didn't understand like what we were trying to achieve. They didn't know what we were trying to accomplish. But then what no one talks about is that actually once you achieve that goal, right, or once you achieve the things that you set out to do, you know, how do you manage it, right? Because there's a level of deflation after you've reached what you wanted to reach, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
I want to sell 1 million records. Okay, you did that, right? Now
Now
what?
what?
Right. Now what? Oh, I want to make a whole bunch of money. Okay, boom, you make all this money. Now what? Right?
It's like you're chasing your tail.
Yeah. So there was a period when, for me personally, I just felt like I was kind of like just just floating around. I was just here. Like, okay, like what else were we able to do? I remember, okay, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We set out to make certain assessments or make certain goals happen, and when we started to work with some of the larger scale artists, and we said,
Yeah.
okay, like, wait a second, this is, that's Nas over there, right? like, like this is this is Nas right off of um it's right before this is right after I Am, right? So you figure Nostradamus hadn't even come out yet,
Right.
right?
Right.
So this is him in his prime, right? So it's
Hmm.
like we're like this is the pinnacle of New York hip hop,
Right.
right? Right? Not to mention we were already with the clan, right? So it was like it's like wow, like so now when we started to do these things and then they started to happen and it was like, okay, this is the dream that you've always had, and then why doesn't it feel as fulfilling as you thought it would? Why didn't this complete who I thought I wanted to be?
Mm,
And you have to start to understand that you have to, these are goals for yourself, and you should always continue to set goals, so that you always have something to work toward. I think that's the first thing. And then have to also realize too is that these things don't make you who you are. You have to understand who you are first. You have to understand that. You have to understand the kind of person that you want to be, and everything else that comes after that is just got add on.
right,
It's
right,
an add on. It's an add on. You know what I'm saying? These things don't make you, anything. It don't make you. You have to be able to deal with that because remember, success comes, success goes.
right. I, al-
Popularity comes, it goes.
I always said that this music business is a roller coaster ride. It goes up, it goes down,
It
it
goes
goes
up, it goes
up,
down.
and it's an emotional roller coaster. And if you don't know that going into it, you're gonna be traumatized. You're
I
gonna
think
be
I think traumatized is the right word because it's all good when you're getting accepted, but it's gonna hurt like hell when you're getting rejected.
Yep. Especially coming from that height.
Yeah,
Everything is popping, everything's going good, this and that, then it stops. And then you're like this. And then you have to continuously keep working to get back, and then boom. And then it's all over again. And
yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
or it may be a while before it's like that. It's funny how these opportunities they come and they go. And sometimes you really have no control over some of the way these opportunities present itself.
None. Some of them just come out of the blue.
Some
Some of
Yeah,
them are just very random. Um, it doesn't. Some of the stuff doesn't have any. You don't have any control over, it, like you said. And I think the best way to put it, I can't remember if it's Baby or someone that actually said this, but was saying that every artist has an expiration date, or
mm,
they're gonna have, if you're Michael Jackson, if you're Def Jam, if you're this, everyone, every musical institution, it has its time and its place,
mm,
and then it resets. And then the question is, can you withstand the reset, right?
right,
And I think even in our own personal case, we were doing what we were doing in New York, and then it reset. And when it reset to the South, we had to say, okay, are we going to be able to make it? Are we going to be able to reset it,
right,
right? Or are we going to be able to deal with the change? And we said, okay, we're going to make some changes, and we were able to make a reset, and we were able to kind of get back into the situation. Would it have been at the height of it was when it was the New York Pinnacle? Well, it's a different caliber of artists, you know.
right,
So it's kind of hard to kind of to measure those things, right?
right.
But in different eras, let's also say that because there's different eras of music.
That's
So
that's interesting you say that though, because it's like you could look at someone like a Timberland who has somewhat reinvented himself throughout the years,
yeah,
and to still be relevant. A Pharrell, you know, 1 minute you're up, then you don't hear from him, then boom, back again,
yeah,
like nothing
yeah,
happened. Even Swiss, it's like boom, he's versus this and that, is happening now. It's like so, it's like 1 minute you're here, and then you're gone for whatever reason, and then you're back again. And if you're able to reinvent yourself and keep up with the changes and keep up with the times, you will have a very long career.
correct,
But you have to have the thick skin through the entire thing. You have to have a good support system in the entire thing. Whoever you're dealing with, whether behind the scenes, whether family, your partner, you know, they have to be understanding, and they have to be willing to ride it out with you, because this journey, is it just doesn't affect you alone. It affects your immediate circle. So all those late nights and all of those other commitments that you have, those may those are going to be impacted as well. If you have a family, if you have, just in a 9 to 5, if you have whatever other things, if you have a grandmother or a mom that you have to take care of, or sick or whatever, any other things you have going on. So you really have to have a thick skin. You have to have a good support system, a good foundation, and making sure if you're a spiritual person, that's helpful in a lot of cases as well. But these things are going to be needed in order to be successful and maintain your success in this music business.
And you couldn't have said it better because the thick skin, um, the mental awareness, the mental stamina, dexterity, right? Whatever
Hmm.
you want to call it. Um, you have to be relentless with this, and you have to be able to deal, like you said, not only with the rejections and the highs and the lows, but when those lows hit, they hit, and you know, there's just I think that sometimes when you see your favorite artist and you say, "Dang, how'd they get so swole?" That's life, right?
Life.
That's people eating through their pain, eat through their stress, or drinking through their pain and their stress, and celebrity is addictive. I don't think people really understand how addictive it could be to feel like to be that person, to be that personality that everybody gravitates to, and it's a drug, and it's celebrity is a drug, and it's kind of like success is a drug, because it's like it's euphoric. You feel alive because you get this comes with this, the attention, the money, and so forth, and you have to be able to know how to deal with those things, right? Because it can make you spiral in a certain way where you can start to indulge in things that can destroy you ultimately if you're not
Yeah.
careful.
Right.
And if you look at the music business as a whole, um, you know, I used to say that this is a business that's designed to destroy you,
Mm.
right? Because a lot of the things that we talk about, especially in hip hop music, is all about excess. Right? We talk about excess drinking, excess promiscuity,
Hmm.
um, excess drug use. Everything is about in excess. So sometimes this lifestyle of being in this business, if you're not careful, if you're not rooted correctly, it can be the demise of you,
You can lose
right?
yourself. Hmm.
Right. You can lose yourself into it if you're not rooted correctly. Um, and I think with us sometimes as a black community that's always that's coming into a situation with already a host of mental health issues.
Hmm.
This isn't the right cocktail, right? So
So to speak.
yeah, so if you're not like you said, if you don't have that support system, if it's not rooted correctly, you can find yourself in a world of trouble. Like you could be succeeding as a musical artist, and then you can see yourself slipping away into darkness,
And this
and
happened. You see it. This happened to so many artists that's no longer here.
you're no longer here.
You know.
We've watched it, and we've watched the streets consume certain artists. We've seen certain artists come and certain artists go. We've been around here a long time just to see it happening and seeing um, some of the unhappiness with some artists, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Folks trying to be able to balance family and success.
Trying to cope.
Yeah, it's real. So some of the advice we would give out to some folks is make sure you have the right support system, and also make sure that you know why you're doing what you're doing. If you
Right.
if you if you're doing it for if you're doing it for fame and stuff like that, I mean, I guess that's cool. But just understand that it comes and it goes. And what are you going to do when it comes? And what are you going
Right.
to do when it goes?
Right.
Same thing for people who do it for money. It comes, it goes.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what's going to happen when it comes and when it goes.
You got to figure out
I,
what's really important.
there it is.
What's
Like
really
what?
important. And I always recommend, like just, you know, I think even Fat Joe said this himself. You got to have something for a rainy day. You got to put something away because, it will happen. It's just a matter of when.
Right.
You're not going to be on top forever. you're not gonna have 10 summers of you know,
Only the best of the best of the best.
and even they take a break. Drake has been quiet for a little while. They take breaks.
And I can imagine the amount of sacrifices an artist like that would have to make in order to maintain a certain level of success. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about the sacrifices. You know, the sacrifice that me and you doing this podcast right now. Our children may be upstairs, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
right now, they may be having their cereal without us. You know, and people may look at it and say that's not a big deal. No, it is a big
It
deal
is a big deal.
because they're kids. You know, and you know you never get that time back. That time is gone. You know, so again, you have to sacrifice so much in order to get what you want out of the life. And you know, you can try to explain it to your children later. Well, I was doing it for you so you can have the house, or you can have it so you can live a certain kind of way that we didn't live. But they don't. All they realize is that you just wasn't there.
Facts. Right.
You know, so people have to understand the balance of it. People have to understand that you know, yeah, we want you to be able to succeed in the music business, and hopefully with this podcast that we're doing, that we can help you save some time, right? Because it's precious, and if no one is going to give you any game, it can take you 3, 4 times as long to get to your destination. You know, the best thing that you can have in this business is a mentor or someone that you can lean on for accurate information or help to prepare you for the highs and the lows and prepare you for the success. Our late cousin used to talk to us about like I remember one time when we were it was right before we got our first placement, and he had said something to me where it was like he said, "Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for success? Because the way that you're moving, I'm not sure you're ready for it." And at first, I was kind of taken aback by it. I didn't understand, like, why would you say that we ain't ready for success? You know. But what he was saying was, were you ready for it mentally? Were you ready for the sacrifice that you were going to have to make to stay on top, or the sacrifice that you were going to have to make to even make it? He was like, were you ready for that? Were you ready for the changes that were going to come when you started getting the money? Were you ready for the envy that people were going to give towards you just for making it, you know, being the hood star, right? Um, so I didn't understand that. And then as we started to ascend, then I started to realize, okay, this is what he was talking about. And at the time, we probably weren't ready. And, you know, as you get older, you start to mature, you start to understand that, yeah, you got to get ready for this stuff. And you have to have somebody in your corner to tell you what to do, what not to do, so that you can, somebody that you trust. Let's
Right.
let's let's say that somebody that you trust, somebody who's not in it to take you for the ride and take everything for you, but someone that you can trust and can tell you, hey, don't do it like this. Do it this way. It'll save you about amount of time. Um, watch out for this over here. You know, maybe you shouldn't be doing this much drinking or this much smoking. Maybe you might need to kind of lean back off some of that stuff. And you need that. If you don't have that in your corner, man, you're gonna have trouble.
Facts. Absolutely right.
It's the Architect Beatz Music Business Podcast, folks.
Yes, sir.
You know, this is what we're trying to bring to the table. We're trying to bring stuff that's more real, more personal, just for people to understand what's going on and how can you make it in this music business. This music business is not easy. It isn't, and it definitely. I don't think anybody's really trying to give you the game this way. A lot of people are talking, um, you know, different things, but I think what you'll find with our podcast is that it's going to be a lot more unique. Again, being the experience and the levels that we've been on, there's different levels to it, and now being family men, because at the
Mm.
time, like if you think about that, like we have young kids and still single digits, and how long we been in the game? Like we just started our families. No one wants to talk about that type of sacrifice, right? That we actually put that to the burner in order to
Yo,
succeed.
quick one, real quick. I remember going out on a date. I'm at the movie theaters with the girl, right? The movie is starting. My phone rings. It's Nas.
I remember that.
This is real early. So
It's early.
Nas says he likes this record. Can I come to the studio? Blah blah blah. I look at the girl, and I'm like, I'm on my way. I tell homegirl, this is what's going on. Here, I'm out. Sacrifices.
It is what it is, man.
I mean, some people may be like, yo, that's kind of foul. You couldn't
Right.
reschedule. I'm sure Moke should be like, nah, I would do the same thing. But the bottom line is, at that moment, that was a sacrifice that was worth making.
But I remember that, and I remember having to, getting that call from you and saying, "Hey, everybody got to go," and that's what it is.
You may have to cut people off if they don't understand. They can't be around.
And the joint happens so fast, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens so fast. I just remember one time. I remember another time you called me, and you called me. You go, "Yo, where you at?" I'm like, "Yo, I'm out here doing whatever." You're like, "Yo, come to the studio. Keep sweating in the studio." Yo, I don't think I ever got downtown that so fast. I had dropped everything I was doing. Like, I was like, "Yo, I gotta go." Boom, was out.
Yeah, I gotta see this.
Got down to the Hit Factory, and he was just wrapping up, and I was just sitting there like this. Now, granted, the song didn't make the album, right? Right?
Uh-huh.
But these are the things you can't miss. Like, you can't miss. And then it's so funny. I'm talking about Keith Sweat, and who just had the verses last week? Keith Sweat. You know what I'm saying? So it's so funny because, like, it's the sacrifice, like you said, man. Like, and I remember jumping on every single train, trying to get to that city. I should have just paid for a cab. I don't know why I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I could have just paid for a cab. I was just like, I was going to jump on the Metro North. I'm coming all the way from Westchester.
Back in the day, you have to because you have to wait for the cab. You didn't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, like
you sitting there stewing like, I'm going to miss it. What's going on?
I'm going to miss it. I got to get on. I got to get down there. And it was so crazy. Like those like you said, like those times, man. Like,
and there was plenty of phone calls like that too. Like, yo, we gotta
go.
What you doing? Whatever you with, you gotta cut that off. We gotta go.
Gotta go.
So if who you with ain't don't got the stomach for that.
Sleeping with your phone next to you. You can't never say your phone is dead. Like, your phone is dead. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why your phone not next to you? I ain't hear it. What? That's not even an excuse. Like, you gotta. It's so crazy. Like, when you really want this game.
Yeah.
And you'll have these stories, man. And I'm gonna have to do more story time, man, because I think people enjoy that. Like, people enjoy the stories of the stories, like, like the Big Pun stories. I know we got a ton of those.
Mm-hmm.
Ton of Raekwon stories.
A ton of those.
A ton of those stories, man. Like, those stories are just a ton of Loud Record stories. Just But this is all part of our experience.
Journey. And a journey.
You know what I mean? That's what's so dope about it. But I hope that we've been able to shed some light on the sacrifices and the. I ask everybody to stay strong out there when it comes to this business. Don't let it get you down.
Seek help.
Get help when you need it. Reach out. Don't, a lot of people not talking about mental health like they should be. Reach out. Like go. Don't be afraid to talk to anybody. Because with this thing can get you feeling away.
It
you
will. It
know.
will. Time to time. Time to time, it will.
Yeah, because you should be submitting
Um,
that music, and people is like, no, don't like this, don't like this, and everybody tell you no, and then you get that one yes,
yep.
get that one placement. That one placement can change your life. Change your
Facts.
life. So you can't stop. And you got to keep going. But in the meantime, make sure that you have the help to keep yourself grounded so that you can continue to put the work in. And I want to try to leave it on that. If you got anything else for them, cuz?
Now I'm gonna see if I could, see if he's still eating his cereal. See if I could catch him.
I don't know if mine eating this cereal, but I'm gonna go see if I can catch both of them, see what they're doing.
No
But
doubt.
it's the Arkatech Beatz Music Podcast, folks. Follow us at www.arkatechbeatz.com. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, uh, Rumble, YouTube. We're everywhere.
Spotify, all the
Spotify,
DSPs. Yeah, yeah.
everybody. So just do a like, do a follow, and if you think the information is good, the best thing you can do for us is share with a friend. Till next time, folks. Peace.
Peace.